Can you actually believe we've been doing this for a year? My first ever wobbly Flosstube video was uploaded just over a year ago now, and I'm happy to say we have come a long way since then. From what was originally going to be a typical Flosstube channel to whatever this is now. I'm not going to talk your ear off about the channel and plans for year 2, but I have learned a lot. There are exciting plans, and I hope you will be right there with me. If you're new here today, hello! My name is Michelle and I love to do all the crafts, but especially the stitchy ones. On this channel you'll find mostly cross-stitch, yarn and sewing, but also, let's face it, just any craft that I happen to fancy giving a whirl. Today's video is a more laid-back personal update on what I've been doing and making for the last couple of months, so grab your cup of tea, get comfy, and let's jump in. 3 big things have happened in real life since our last proper catch-up. Eurovision, my birthday, and me and Dave going on actual holiday. The trauma of having to listen to me bang on about Eurovision all through May is probably still quite raw for some of you, so all I'm going to say about that is it was brilliant. Thanks to everyone who watched it with me or commiserated when Latvia went out in the semis, and I think we can all agree France were robbed. If the UK hosts next year, maybe I'll see some of you there. I'll talk about birthday stuff a little bit later because I got some cool craft related gifts, so that just leaves us with actual holiday. Obviously, holidays have been a bit of an issue the last couple of years, and so a few months back we decided to book something for summer to have something to look forward to. We started talking about it in these hushed tones of amazement. Us? Going on actual holiday? And the name just sort of stuck. We spent a week in the Lake District, which is only a couple of hours drive from home, but honestly, who says you have to go far? I'm a creature of the lake. It's beautiful. We've been going for years, but usually just for day trips, so it was a real luxury to have so much time to indulge in our various traditions. Plus, our lodge had a hot tub, so that was pretty cool too. I basically lived in that thing. I've never been in a hot tub before, and I am sold. I relaxed in the hot tub, ate Skittles in the hot tub, read the Silmarillion in the hot tub, did Gollum impressions in the hot tub, briefly attempted to knit a sock in the hot tub, not to mention the frequent naps in the hot tub. If I've interacted with you at all since coming home, you'll know that I basically spent the next week in a huff, wishing I was back in the hot tub, but thankfully it is wearing off a bit now. Post-holiday blues are the worst. Okay, so in among all of that, I have actually managed to do some crafts. You've already seen this first one, so I won't say much, but it's rare that I have a proper finish to show off, so just let me have this, okay? This is a simple beaded pattern that I drew up for the beading tutorial published a couple of weeks ago. There's a small version of the pattern which is available for free over on Ko-fi to practice beading, and this larger version was available to anyone who chose to donate. So first of all, thank you to everyone who did choose to donate for this. It actually helps a ton with buying new supplies for the channel, so I appreciate it a lot. This is actually my first ever flat finish. I think you call it a flat finish, and it was done in quite a big hurry on the day that that beading tutorial video was going out. It was an extremely busy week in general. You'll hear more about that as we go, but yeah. It maybe isn't the best job in the world. I used some chipboard and some quilt batting that I just happened to have lying around from other projects, and essentially winged it. But I think it worked out okay. I'll show you the back. I haven't covered it over because, again, it was kind of last minute. But really, from the front, I don't think you can tell. I think it probably could have done with being a bit tighter, but you know what? It's my first attempt and I think it's fine. In terms of whips then, I packed quite a few things to take to the lakes, and I actually only ended up stitching on one of them. That was the Peppermint Purple Year of Blackwork stitch along. Last time you saw this, I was working on catching up through March. I think I'd pledged to finish that by the end of May. Well, I did that and then I kept going. I've now finished March, April, and I'm into week 3 of May. Unfortunately, see, it's that sort of half-stitched block there. I made a mistake, and I made a mistake just before tying off the previous thread and starting a new thread, so it's kind of annoying. I need to rip that out, so this is in timeout for a little bit, but I'm hoping at the weekend I'll have a little bit more patience with it and I can get it back on track. I say this literally every time, but this is the quickest project to catch back up on in the whole world. If you are sitting watching this and you think, oh, that's pretty, but there's no point me joining a year-long stitch-along now, there totally is a point. You can catch up super easily and it's pretty, and also it doesn't really matter if you end up overrunning. Like, nobody cares. It was the perfect holiday stitch, just super relaxing, no stress at all. If only every project could be this easy. But they can't. This is another project I took to the lakes, although this one did not get a single stitch. It is of course The Pixels That Made Us by Pick Stitch. If you've seen my videos before, you've heard me complain plenty about this pattern, so it's probably no surprise to you that I didn't quite fancy working on it when I was in relaxed, happy holiday mode. Among the lessons I've learned from this infuriating piece is that I really hate stitching with 3 strands, and honestly, I'd rather just have less good coverage but enjoy the stitching process more. I think since last time I've probably only done about 100 stitches maybe in this, but that could be 8 or 9 colours because it's such heavy confetti. I don't know exactly because I don't have this one in Pattern Keeper, but what's our motto? Progress is progress. I will keep going, we will get there, even if it's just a few stitches at a time. Alright, this one is an absolute mess. It's still in the Q-snap because, frankly, I was working on it last night, I'm super into it right now, and if I take it out of the frame, there'll just be that extra bit of resistance next time I go to pick it up. So this is, of course, Autumn Stories from Pain Free Crafts. It is my first and currently only full coverage piece. I'm working it over 28 count even weave, 2/1 10th stitch. This was started in January, I think it was, and I only just passed 5% according to Pattern Keeper a couple of nights ago, so I'll show you a close-up there. It's so much fun. I can't believe I was doing full cross projects like a total chump. 10th stitch is the way. Also, side note, it has been decided that we're totally allowed to use the term 10th stitch now, even if technically we're not really doing it right. Who cares? I've been really feeling like I was making good progress on this. I do probably about 100 stitches per mini session while watching TV, and page 2 is coming together nicely. And then I was watching Bobo Jessie Stitches the other day, and she worked on a full coverage piece for Monogamous May and just had so much progress. And honestly, I'm kind of intimidated, but mostly just really jealous. So that's kind of giving me a bit of a kick to work on this more and see if I can get at least a page finish, but just really get things moving for a change. I think it'll be really satisfying, and honestly, it's nice to give myself permission to work on this a ton because it is by far my favourite thing to work on at the moment. Okay, one of my other goals for May was to restart Garden Cat by Satsuma Street. If you recall, this is the first pattern that I ever really bought myself, and I tried to do it with a very small at the time stash, so that resulted in some really awkward colour substitutions and blends that I needed to take out. Unfortunately, I have not got round to frogging this, never mind restarting it. What I have done is got my hands on some of the missing colours and sorted out substitutes for the others, and I know which bits I need to frog, frankly, most of it, but that doesn't really translate into visible progress. I'll give you a close-up look, and warning, we are about to get deep. I have spent the first half of this year honestly just kind of running to keep up with life. It's really not been pretty at all, this channel has suffered, and you'd probably agree I've been a bit all over the place. But I officially got to the end of my tether a few weeks back, and now I'm just trying to take a step back and find a bit more of a balance with things. That means dealing with some awkward situations, like the Satsuma Street start-along that was supposed to happen in, I think it was maybe March or April it was first mentioned, and I've just not done it. Other things kept coming up and getting in the way until suddenly I realised it's been literal months and it's just not happened. So it's kind of really embarrassing showing you this now and having not even got it into a state where it's ready to be restarted. But I'm cringing through it anyway because sometimes adult life is busy and sometimes we don't cope as well as we wish we would, and that's just life. Satsuma Street patterns are so bright and colourful and would have made a great summer project. But that just didn't work out, so a couple of us have decided to make this an end of summer start along instead and just take our time. If anyone else might be interested in joining in with us, I'm not sure on dates or anything yet, but I will let you know here and on Instagram. In the meantime, just pick a Satsuma Street pattern and get ready to start along with us. You might have seen on Instagram that I have been pattern shopping for a pattern to go on these 2 fancy fabrics gifted to me by Amber at Rogue Mama Stitcher last year. They've sat in pride of place on my crafting shelves, but obviously I'm a slow stitcher so didn't have room in the rotation for new things until recently. You gave me some great tips on how to choose patterns for fancy fabric, and I'm really excited to get stuck in. Although some of you are terrible influencers who make things way more complicated than they need to be, and you know who you are. Watch this space, I guess. Part of my whole thing this year has been to set myself some intentional crafting guidelines to stop myself from starting random new projects that I end up never finishing or using. But very occasionally you see something that makes all of that go out the window and you just need it right now. Enter the Clam Top by Yarns and Fins. I saw somebody else post their make on Reddit a few weeks ago, and despite it obviously being designed for younger bodies, I needed it. It just so happened to be that same day somebody commented on one of my older videos about frogging some old projects, and the reclaimed yarn they were talking about, which was Cascade Heritage Silk in the Jade colourway, seemed like it would be perfect for this top. So of course I dropped everything and immediately started on this. It was a pretty quick make, I would say, although not the couple of afternoons project that I hoped it might be. It was completed just in time for actual holiday, however, I'd planned to wear this lounging around on the deck on an afternoon, and it turned out I spent most of that time in the hot tub, so never mind. It is definitely not the most practical thing in the world for someone my age to wear, and I might need to go around the side parts and add a little bit extra slip stitching just to tighten things up and stop anything from escaping out the sides, you know? But it's cute as heck, and I am so glad I happened to have frogged that scarf. I don't know if you can really tell, it's not even been blocked yet because, as I say, that was a busy week. But now that photos of it have been all over the internet and nobody has mentioned the blocking situation, maybe I'll just not. Oh, and P.S. if you are that one person who saw my post about this on Reddit and then recognised me from YouTube, hi! My current knitting whip is of course my drippity drop socks, which you've seen a million times in these videos because I have been knitting them since December. However, I forgot to bring them upstairs, I think. So I'm going to film some B-roll and I'm going to talk at you over it and pretend it was always meant to be that way. Here's where I was, just having started the second sock last time, and since then they've come on actual holiday, I've turned the heel and I've done a big chunk of foot. So actually these will be done soon. That pattern is Drippity Drop Socks by K.F. Jones. The yarn is Fear of the Dark colourway by Castleview Yarns. As much as I love the yarn and the stitch pattern, I'm just not as much of a fan of the heel and toe on these. I think that's maybe why I've been procrastinating them a bit. Like, I don't know the technical terms for different kinds of sock heel, but if we compare to these other ones, you can see there's a very defined ridge on the heel there that seems to make this bit weirdly narrow and I'm just not convinced. The toes are weird as well. I mentioned last time that instead of the smooth decreases I'm used to, it has you sort of decrease around the whole thing to gather it together like you might for the top of a hat. I'm trying it as written just to see, but I do think I prefer the tidiness of the side decreases. I'll wear them a ton anyway, of course, but it's just really surprising to me how much variety you can get in patterns for something really small like a sock. Okay, I also have 2 sewing finishes, one of which is the Winslow pants that you heard all about in last week's video. I was so hot and frazzled and rushed making that video, so I probably didn't include half of the information I should have done on them, but nevertheless, they are fluffy and swooshy and just soft and amazing, and I love them very much. The pattern calls for something very lightweight and drapey if you are doing the full-length version like I did, so I settled on something called Visco's Dobby from Minerva, which is so light and soft and just feels amazing. This was bought with a birthday gift voucher from Mary at Wilbury Knits a Lot, so I just have to say thank you because I could definitely not have afforded anything this fancy without you. Seriously, I'm not sure I've ever felt anything this nice. These were made as part of a collaboration with Katie Makes Stuff, and she loved her pants so much, she's apparently already gone and made herself a second pair. I have to say I'll probably not be very far behind, it's such an easy pattern, and just by choosing a different kind of fabric or changing up the length, you can make something completely different vibe-wise. If anybody out there is looking to dip a toe into sewing clothes, I can definitely recommend this as a good beginner pattern if you do the elastic back hack. I probably wouldn't recommend doing pants with a proper waistband and a zip for beginners, but with this elastic back, you can't really go wrong. Another very thoughtful birthday gift was this sewing pattern, Quick Sew 4138. This was from my friend Sophie, who you may remember as the cockroach from our Halloween shenanigans. We'd been talking about how I wanted to sew a pinafore type dress, she saw this pattern, the rest is history. Of course, I decided I needed to make this dress in time for actual holiday despite having way too many other things to do. So I spent some birthday money on the absolute cheapest plain black cotton I possibly could because I wanted to try fitting something properly for once and I didn't want to do that on fancy fabric. See, I have a high waist or a short torso, I'm not really sure what the technical term is. But any ready-to-wear item with a defined waist is going to have it at least 2 inches too low for my body. Look how low down the waist is on that dress. Yeah, that's just not happening. Move it up to just below the boobs and that's a bit more like it. So with the cheap cotton I was able to be adventurous. I lopped off 2 full inches from the length of the bib and added it to the skirt so that the whole dress would stay the same length. Unfortunately, I did forget to shorten the straps by an equal amount, so they're a bit long and it looks kind of weird. But other than that, my modification worked pretty well, I think. These buttons are homemade, which I think you can definitely tell. I basically just whipped them up in 3D modelling software, 3D printed them out, and then I didn't even take time to finish them. I just spray painted them and stuck them on as is. It was a really busy week, okay? Those are a subtle nod to a game called Outer Wilds. I'm not going to say much about it because it's super spoiler sensitive, but it's also one of the best games I've ever experienced, so if you haven't played it, consider this a recommendation. One thing I'm really not happy with on this dress is the back closure. I had a lot of problems with this area where the waistband kind of extends beyond the zip. I discovered that it's actually the exact same problem I had on my monkey skirt last year. So the plan is to try that part again, and probably again and again, with some scrap fabric until I figure out what it is I'm doing. This is how we learn, right? Still though, I have worn this dress multiple times already, I love it, it's so comfy, and if anyone has a problem with the back closure being a bit messy, that's their problem, not mine. Last but not least, for sewing. While doing a charity shop run looking for fabric for the Winslow pants, I came across this tablecloth for, I think it was £3? Fairly heavyweight, but it's 100% cotton and, you know, it's purple and green. How could I resist? I'm thinking some kind of pleated skirt if there's enough of it, but someone also suggested looking at patterns for boxy tops, and maybe. I've got some pattern shopping to do, and in the meantime I need to check out charity shops more often because this was fate. If you are enjoying this ramble through my crafts, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. And if you'd like a front row seat to future shenanigans, consider subscribing too. Cheers. I'd actually like your opinion on something too, if you wouldn't mind. When this channel first started, I was doing monthly crafters logs. These days, they're a bit more sporadic, both due to me having a load of other video ideas I want to make, but also feeling like sometimes I just don't have enough progress on everything to show you. So my question is, which do you prefer? Every month, regardless of progress, so we can just have a chill catch-up together, or only when there's actually something relevant to show. Alternatively, maybe you hate these videos, but then to be honest, it's kind of weird you watched this one so far through. Let me know down in the comments, thank you in advance, and now let's take a look at other crafts, for which I will be joined by my lovely assistant.
That's me! Hi, I'm Dave, the dice guy. That's what I am. That's who I am and what I am.
Okay, so what have you brought for us to look at today then?
I brought some dice. Alright, so if you remember last time I showed some dice that were made using the shell technique, which is where you make blank dice with no numbers on them at all, and then you put them into clear resin, and that gives you the ability to add patterns or fancy whatnots onto the dice faces that won't be ruined by the actual dice making process. So this set was made, instead of dipping the blanks, I painted them, or rather I splattered them with red blood, trying desperately not to get it all over somebody's precious yarn and fabrics.
Thank you for your consideration there, by the way.
My pleasure. Ooh, pretty. So, like most people, I used to have a pile of painted skulls that I had lying around waiting for a project.
Sure.
That's perfectly normal. There's nothing weird about that. And it turns out that now that I've discovered the shell technique, I now had a project for it. All I had to do was tweezer the skulls into the blank moulds, making sure that the skulls faced outwards, and then once the blanks were done, recast them in resin to get the numbers. They're spooky, gross, and just exactly how I wanted them to turn out. The idea behind this next set, which is actually 2 sets for the price of 1, was to experiment with a matte finish rather than a shiny finish that I usually try to go for. So 1 black set, 1 white set, perfect opposites. And it was supposed to be really easy. After all, a matte finish requires less effort than a glassy polish, right?
Sounds right to me.
Well, it didn't turn out like that. It turns out that making matte dice is really hard, and the paint went everywhere, and everything was stained, and I had to polish them multiple times, and I ended up hating them, but I also kind of loved them at the end.
And is that why you had paint on your neck yesterday?
No, that was a different project.
Oh.
And that's all we've got for Dice News.
Okay, very educational as always. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So, since the last update, we also worked on a project together for my birthday. You have probably already seen it on either Instagram or TikTok, so I'm not going to beat around the bush here. We made a Hobbit cake, and it was awesome.
Nailed it!
How did you find your first go at professional cake decorating? Do you feel like this is a new career just waiting for you to give it a go?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought we were going to make an absolute pig's ear of it, but we didn't somehow, and it all kind of coalesced into a Hobbit hole-looking cake that somehow tasted nice and also looked nice.
Yeah, I was also very surprised.
It was weird.
The cake was lemon flavour with lemon cream cheese buttercream, was that right?
Yes, on a ganache.
I know, it was extremely decadent. Happy birthday to myself! So speaking of birthdays, I also got some presents that I haven't had chance to play with yet. Baby's first polymer clay set, and a selection of random cheap tools. I'm not sure what I'm going to be making first from this, but you might know polymer clay has been on my list for a while, so I am quite excited. Thank you, pal.
My pleasure. Happy birthday again.
Also, a while back, Morty of Mad Morty fame had asked if I wanted to take on her old encaustic art supplies, because it just really wasn't for her. I had no idea what encaustic art was, but I said yes anyway because, you know. A few days before my birthday, I got a mysterious package in the mail, which turned out to be all of this. As a birthday bonus though, she'd also included stationery, 2 cool notebooks and a pen to fill them up with. I think it's safe to say she knows me well. I know I said this at the time, Morty, but this was a really cool surprise, thank you very much. I have no idea when I'm going to get time to actually do this, but you know what? Maybe we could do it together.
I'm busy that day.
Okay, on that note. Bearing in mind I'm recording this almost halfway through the month already, it's going to be a short goals list for July. 1. Focus more on autumn stories because I love it so much, so why not? 2. Finish that second sock and also remember to bring it with me next time. And 3. Do the frogging on Garden Cat ready for our end of summer start along. That's it. Anything else is a bonus. Remember, I am trying to avoid burnout and find a balance here. Okay. I gotta say, it is way too warm in here to do a long intro, so all I'm gonna say is thank you for watching. I will be back soon with some more crafty nonsense, so in the meantime, have a brilliant rest of your day and keep making cool stuff. Bye!